My name is Eddie, and I want to talk to you about how and why we set up our little company and how we're rising to both the challenge and the opportunity of climate change. Let's see if this technology works. Some things become existential for business. Over the last few years, issues about safety, quality, diversity have become things that businesses have to do to progress. There's been reference this morning to procurement. If you don't address those issues, you don't get into the game. That is where we're moving to. And Mark Carney, in his book, which I would commend to you, talks very clearly about the fact that if you don't have the right business model, you will not survive. Another point that struck me recently was that as businesses, you need to find ways to make it easy for people to adapt and move forward. To ask people to change completely is a major burden and obstacle for them. But if you can find ways to help businesses and families and homes to move forward, there's a business opportunity and you're advancing the whole society on that journey. So I'll just play a short video for you. So what you've seen there is an introduction to what we are aiming to do. When we set this company up, Anne-Marie comes from a financial services background. I come from the electricity background. And we saw an opportunity to put this together. And what we realized was that we had some design principles that we could use to build a business and bring people forward. First of those was around decentralize. When I started in the electricity industry, there were 4 power stations in Northern Ireland. One of them was just down here. There are now 22,000 sources of electricity generation in Northern Ireland alone. That's a major challenge, but it's also a major opportunity. We've talked a lot this morning about decarbonisation, and you've had some excellent input from very, very knowledgeable speakers about the challenge of decarbonisation, so I'm not going to dwell on that. I'll talk a little in a moment about digitalisation, but the one I want to focus on just for now is democratisation. And what we mean by that is something that became very clear to me when I started this business. We had no problem selling renewable technology to engineers and dentists. There's probably quite a few engineers here. There's probably very few dentists, so I'll get away with this joke. Engineers love the technology, and dentists have loads of money. So from that point of view, that's fine, but that's not what moves this transition forward. This requires a revolution. A revolution needs to be broadly based, and people need to be able to access it. That's what we mean by democratisation. So our vision. I was privileged enough in my previous life to be sent to Harvard Business School, and what they drive into you is what would disrupt your industry. I was in the electricity distribution industry, so what I was looking for was what would really turn that on its head and make it completely different. In the past, electricity networks were a little bit like train sets. They're beautifully constructed, they ran on tight lines, They did what they were supposed to do, but woe betide you as a customer if you wanted to play with the engineer's train set. It was their train set, and you would get the service that they required, that you required when they were ready to give it to you. What we're seeing in the future is much more like this, and I hope my cultural references are not too out of date. It's the wacky races, all shapes and sizes of players, all sorts of crazy things going on. But within that chaos, there are people that need to be looked after. The other point about this is the digitalization. Back when I joined the industry, 4 power stations I've mentioned, and now 22,000, and we still service around 800,000 customers in Northern Ireland. And one way to think about this is to do those bills for those people in the old days was about 12.8 million calculations, which we used to do in a big mainframe computer. Now it's this number based on the technology we use, because we gather data every second from every device and match that against what's happening on the network, what's happening with the weather, what's happening tomorrow, what's the future going to bring. And that's, I'm reliably informed, somewhere between a quintillion and a quadrillion of a number. I had to Google that because I have no concept of numbers of that size. But the thing is, that's a lot of data. So what we decided to do was we decided to build our platform to exploit that data for the benefit of customers. And we were fortunate enough in Northern Ireland that we have a couple of things in our favour. Here we have very good power engineering skills. On this island, we bring more variable renewable energy onto the grid than any other developed country in the world. We also have very, very good fintech skills in Belfast and Northern Ireland. And that's the financial services industry and the software engineers that can make clever things happen. The other thing that we have to our advantage is we decided to use battery technology to give us the flexibility that markets reward and are seeking as we go forward. And what do I mean by flexibility in terms of battery? It's very simple, but very powerful. When you have a battery connected to your renewable source, you can have more electricity, you can use less electricity. You can use it sooner, or you can use it later. And that gives you the ability to exploit your needs and the requirements of the network to your financial advantage, be that in your home or in your business. Another point that I would draw to your attention is, can you tell the difference between these 2 bills? As I look at it, the one on the left in the slightly yellowed paper is Anne-Marie's grandfather's electricity bill we found when we were clearing out his house from 1955. But it's essentially the same as the electricity bill for my house, because what it was all about was how many units did you use, what tariff were we going to apply, and you pay the bill. There haven't been that many significant developments in this space. What we want to move forward to is a situation more like this. Alexa, how much did I earn from my electricity? The solar panels I have on my roof in my business or home, trading that back to the marketplace, earning real value for people. That's what this should be about. And hopefully, and we know that it comes back and says, you know what, Eddie, you earned £42.56 this month. Now that is something that is fundamentally important when we talk about communities. And I was very, very encouraged and endorsed what Jonathan was saying earlier on. We have a project running up in Coleraine at the moment where there are solar panels and batteries in people's homes, normal homes, some social housing, some private homes. And what those homes are doing is they've cut their electricity bills by over 50%, and they're selling energy back to the grid and services back to the grid. So those houses up there are actually stabilizing both the distribution network and the transmission network, and they're earning money from that. That's the potential of community energy. That's the potential for businesses to take those steps forward. So I've got a warning from the back of the room that I need to stop. So hopefully you find that useful, and I'll be happy to take questions later on. Thank you.